Picture this. You're at a family dinner, the table crowded with steaming dishes and the hum of conversation. The air is thick with nostalgia and unsolicited advice. Suddenly, Uncle Gary leans back in his chair, a twinkle in his eye, and launches into his favorite story. "We bought our first house for $30,000. You kids just don't want to work hard enough these days." The rest of the table nods in agreement, as if he's just revealed the secret to life. Meanwhile, you're sitting there, mentally calculating your student loan payments, juggling 2 jobs, a side hustle, and rent that costs more than a private island in the Caribbean. You're not lazy, you're exhausted, and the math just doesn't add up. The myth goes like this: boomers bought homes with nothing but grit, determination, and a firm handshake, while millennials and Gen Z supposedly waste their money on avocado toast and overpriced lattes. It's a story that gets told over and over, but it's not the whole truth. The real story isn't about brunch or coffee, it's about how the entire economic game board has shifted. Wages haven't kept up with the skyrocketing cost of living, and the rules that made homeownership possible for your grandparents have changed dramatically. Back then, a single income, often from a blue-collar job, could buy a home, support a family, and even leave room for a vacation or two. Houses were affordable, and the American dream felt within reach for most people. Now, even 2 high earners with college degrees can find themselves outbid by investment firms or priced out by soaring real estate values. The competition isn't just other families, it's corporations and investors with deep pockets. Understanding why your grandparents could buy a house while you can't isn't just about family arguments or generational finger-pointing. It's about recognizing the powerful economic forces that have shaped America over the past 50 years. So let's dig into the $30,000 house myth. Not to blame your grandparents, but to understand how something as basic as a home, a place to live, grow, and build a future, has become a luxury for so many. Buckle up. This ride through the history of the housing market is bumpier than ever, and it's time to find out how we got here. After World War II, America's economy boomed while the rest of the world rebuilt. Factories shifted from tanks to toasters, and the government pushed homeownership hard. Suburbs like Levittown popped up, offering affordable homes to a growing middle class. In 1960, the median home price was about $12,000, roughly $123,000 today. Compare that to today's $420,000 median price. Homes were over 3 times cheaper, even after inflation. Wages rose with productivity, so when companies did well, workers did too. The average house cost just over 2 times the median annual income. For many, the path was clear: get a job, save, buy a house. But this golden age wasn't for everyone. The prosperity was exclusive, and the barriers for others were high. We'll get to that. Let's do some quick, painful math. For millions of Americans, the numbers just don't add up. Every month, it's a struggle to stretch a paycheck that's already been spent before it even arrives. The cost of simply existing, rent, groceries, utilities, keeps climbing while wages seem stuck in time. Back in 1968, the minimum wage was $1.60 an hour. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $14 today, nearly double the current federal minimum of $7.25. It's hard to imagine, but minimum wage workers then had almost twice the buying power of today's workers. A full-time minimum wage worker in 1968 could expect to earn $3,328 a year. The median price of a home? Just $24,600. That meant homeownership, while not easy, was at least within reach for someone willing to work hard and save. It would take about 7.4 years of full-time work at minimum wage to buy a median-priced home. That's a long haul, but it was possible. People could see a path forward, even if it meant sacrifice. Fast forward to today. A minimum wage worker earns just $15,080 a year, barely enough to cover basic living expenses, let alone save for a home. Meanwhile, the median home price has skyrocketed to $420,000, putting ownership out of reach for most. Now it would take nearly 28 years of full-time work at minimum wage to afford a median-priced home. And that's before taxes, before food, before you pay for anything else life demands. The math is brutal, and the reality is even harsher. The gap between what people earn and what they need to live has exploded. Wages have barely budged, while housing costs have soared into the stratosphere. The lines on the chart aren't just diverging, they're racing away from each other. It's not about bad spending habits or lattes, it's about a paycheck that simply doesn't go as far as it used to. Essentials like food, rent, and healthcare eat up every dollar, leaving little hope for saving or getting ahead. The goalposts haven't just moved, they've been vaporized. The dream of catching up, of getting ahead, feels more distant than ever. Minimum wage was never a golden ticket, but it used to keep you in the game. It meant you could at least hope for a better future, maybe even a home of your own. Now, for millions, you're not even on the field. The barriers are higher, the opportunities fewer, and the dream feels out of reach. For low-wage workers, the dream of homeownership isn't just far away, it's light years out of reach, a distant hope that keeps slipping further with every passing year. Most boomers didn't buy homes on minimum wage, they had better options. Post-war America offered stable, well-paying jobs, often without a college degree. Strong unions meant better wages and benefits. A single earner could support a family, unimaginable today. College was cheap. In 1965, public university tuition was about $260 a year, about $2,500 today, compared to over $11,000 now. Boomers graduated with little debt, freeing up income for a down payment. Healthcare costs were a fraction of today's. All these factors let families save and build wealth, with homeownership as the main goal. Hard work mattered, but the system was tilted in their favor. Today's generations are playing on expert mode, with the rules rewritten. The post-war boom wasn't just the free market, it was government policy. The GI Bill gave veterans low-interest, zero-down home loans, fueling suburban growth. The FHA insured mortgages, making homeownership safer for banks and buyers. But these benefits were not equally shared. Black veterans were systematically denied loans, and redlining made it nearly impossible for minorities to buy in many areas. The government handed white families the keys to wealth, while locking out black families. The wealth gap wasn't an accident, it was policy. Today's housing market is a demolition derby. Home prices have skyrocketed relative to income. Now you're not just competing with families, you're up against corporate investors making all-cash offers and turning homes into rentals. Housing is now an asset class, not just shelter. Lending standards are tighter, down payments are higher, and rent eats up your savings. Wages have barely budged, while costs for everything, housing, healthcare, education have soared. It's a vicious cycle: high rent blocks saving for a home, and high home prices keep you renting. The system is rigged for regular people to lose. Millions are stuck in a financial trap. Soaring home prices, stagnant wages, corporate landlords, and student debt have created a generation stuck in economic limbo. Traditional milestones, marriage, kids, homeownership, are delayed or out of reach. The psychological toll is real: anxiety, resentment, and a sense of being left behind. Even following all the rules doesn't guarantee progress. This instability ripples through the economy. Less home buying means less spending, lower birth rates, and growing inequality. Homeownership has been the main path to middle-class wealth. When that's blocked, entire generations are locked out of stability. It's not just about a house, it's about security, mobility, and the American dream. The message: work hard, but the rewards are gone. It's easy to feel hopeless, but there are solutions. First, we need to build more housing, especially in high-demand areas. Outdated zoning laws block new construction. Reforming them can boost supply and lower prices. We must curb corporate landlords, taxing large-scale investors, giving tenants first dibs, or banning bulk purchases. Housing should be for people, not just profit. Broader policies matter too: raise the minimum wage, strengthen unions, and tackle student debt. Down payment assistance and public housing can help. These aren't radical, they've worked before. The crisis is about policy choices, and we can choose differently. Change is possible if we have the will. We've seen how policy, economics, and discrimination shaped who could buy a home and who couldn't. But this story is bigger than just the price of a house or who gets to sign a deed. It's about the rules we set as a society, and how those rules ripple out to touch every part of our lives. Our schools, our neighborhoods, our sense of security, and our hopes for the next generation. The next time someone brings up their $30,000 house, remember, the game has changed. That price tag wasn't just about luck or hard work, it was about timing, policy, and a system that worked differently than it does today. The world that made those prices possible is gone, replaced by a new reality where wages haven't kept up, and the cost of entry keeps rising. This isn't about blaming boomers or any one group. It's about understanding how decades of choices, both big and small, have shaped the world we live in now. Every generation inherits the consequences of the last, and every generation has the power to make new choices for the future. We defunded education, let wages stagnate, and let investors treat homes like poker chips. These weren't accidents, they were decisions made over years that prioritized short-term gains over long-term stability. And those decisions didn't just affect housing, they changed the fabric of our communities, our schools, and our opportunities. But because these were choices, we can choose differently. We can decide to invest in people, in neighborhoods, and in the future we want to see. The power to change course is still in our hands, if we're willing to use it. We can build more homes, pay living wages, and put people before profit. We can create policies that open doors instead of closing them, and make sure that everyone has a fair shot at stability and success. This is about more than houses. It's about the future we want. It's about the kind of country we want to be, and the legacy we leave for those who come after us. Will we be a country of opportunity, where everyone has a chance to build a life and a home? Or will we become a nation divided by who owns and who rents, by who gets ahead and who gets left behind? The housing crisis is a warning sign for the American dream. It's a signal that something fundamental is at risk, not just for a few, but for all of us. Rebuilding that dream starts now, one policy, one law, one home at a time. The future is still unwritten, and together we can decide what comes next.